Hi, welcome to Proving Contraries, where a Latter-day Saint seeks to understand with questions and curiosity. Today, I'm joined by Tami Pyfer. Tami is the Chief Impact Officer for Unite and co-creator of the Dignity Index. The Dignity Index is a method designed to ease divisions, prevent violence, and solve problems. Tami, my first question for you is, for someone who has never heard of the Dignity Index, what problem is it trying to solve, and what does it do? How does it work?
Oh, Jonathan, thanks for having me. The Dignity Index is a tool that we develop to score the language we use in disagreement. We believe that our problems right now in the country and in our communities, sometimes in our families, aren't because we disagree, but it's how we disagree. And that contempt has crept into these disagreements. It's not just that you're, wrong or misguided, you're evil. All of a sudden we're attaching these feelings and these labels, which never used to happen. In disagreement, we would disagree, and it's like, oh, that's interesting, or you're wrong. But now the stakes have risen so high that we believe that the contempt is causing deep divisions within our country. And so the Dignity Index was developed to solve the problem of recognizing the language that we use and teaching people what contempt, what that actually looks like, and also what dignity looks like, because we believe that dignity is the antidote to contempt. And so the if I can keep going, this is the index. That's right here.
Yes,
It's on our
keep
website.
going.
So the index is the scale. It goes from 1 to 8, and the bottom four levels of the scale are the contempt side of the scale. You start at a 4 where you don't belong. We're better than you, and you dip down to your evil. To lower, you're going to destroy everything. To a 1 is really a call for violence. It's dehumanization, and we're calling for violence. That's the language of genocide and political violence. So that's the contempt side of the scale. The dignity side of the scale starts with, I'm going to listen to you. You belong here too, and I might not agree with you, but I want to listen to what you have to say. A 6, you start to look for common ground, and then you start to, look for solutions that you might not have thought of before. To 7, maybe admitting that you're wrong or changing your mind. And that the top of the dignity side of the scale is an 8, where you say, look, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. Everyone has inherent worth. And of course, in our religion, they have inherent divine worth, and therefore they deserve to be treated with dignity no matter what. That doesn't mean I have to like what you do, doesn't mean I even have to respect you or respect what you do. But we believe that even in disagreement, even in strong disagreement, we can treat people with dignity without having to agree or get on board with all of the ideas that they are maybe purporting. So that's the index. And what we found is when people learn how to use the scale, all of those bad things that you think other people are doing and how horrible they speak and how much contempt they have. And you start to look at the language and go, okay, that was me this morning. I read this piece
Yeah,
of news and my first thought was, those people are ruining everything. And when I realize and recognize that language, what that looks like within my own self, then it gives me the opportunity to change really the only person that I can change, which is me.
very good. So I remember something on your website called the mirror effect. I think I know when I first learned about the Dignity Index, I kind of put together in my mind, okay, here's how it works. And I started looking at my least favorite politicians and judging the heck out of them.
Yeah.
It just seems only natural because I know that they are treating me and my side with less dignity than it
Yeah.
deserves. But I think, what does the mirror effect do? How would that help someone like me who gets started kind of like judging others?
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, when we first developed the Dignity Index, our thought was we're going to use this to score political speech.
Hmm.
Because if citizens could, they're looking for someone, an elected official who can help problem solve, who can work across the aisle, who can bring people together. We think that that won't happen if you have politicians who use contempt daily. Then that's just part of their strategy. So we designed this to score political speech so a voter could say, I'm going to look at the language on their website. I'm going to look at their debate. And if they use a lot of contempt, we're not going to score people, but we're going to score the language, then that might not be someone that is going to help move the country forward. Now, that's what we designed it to do, but it took really only a few days into the training that we were doing with the young people that we hired to pilot test the index. Day 2 and day 3, some of these people, they were students from the University of Utah. We had some researchers there as well. They would come back to our training session and go, I had to take down a social media post I made last night. I had to unfollow a podcast I've been listening to because I heard the language in a new way. I had to
Yeah.
apologize to a friend. I hear that all of the time when I give these presentations. It's kind of human nature, I believe, John, that we go in and say, I'm ready to judge you because it's not me, it's you. And then again, the mirror effect here is that we start to listen to this language and we start to see ourselves in that language. I start to see a politician I don't like, or a coworker I don't like, or a cousin that I don't want to come to dinner anymore because their views are, I just can't handle their views. And I start to judge them and I start to realize that I'm the one using that language. And so that's what we call the mirror effect. It's very, very powerful. We believe that when you use contempt, it's hard to see it, but once you see it, it's hard to use because this scale is pretty sticky. And when you know what a 2 and a 3 and a 4 are and you use it, you've experienced this. All of a sudden it's like, well, that was me. I was a 3 today. And it's hard to do because we as innate and kind of human nature as it is to judge others, I think it's also part of our human nature that we want to do better, that we want to become better people. We want to live our religion in a better way. And so the Dignity Index helps us see contempt so that once we see it, it becomes harder to use.
Thank you for that. So another question I have is like, how do you prevent the dignity index from being weaponized? I've heard or seen some comments online that people were concerned that this could be used as a way of shaming and
Yeah.
creating kind of a cooling effect on honest dialogue. How would you respond to that?
Yeah. And that's an honest concern. We've heard this off and on for the last couple of years is that you're just trying to shut down free speech. You're trying to suppress free speech. We believe, and I've experienced personally, that contempt is what shuts down free speech. Contempt suppresses opinions. If you're in a room and if you look at the data on our dignity barometer, half of Americans won't say what they really think, or they're afraid to bring up topics because of how they will be treated. That's contempt suppressing free speech. We believe that dignity is what encourages and opens up free speech. That if we can say what we feel, say what we think, but say it in a way that encourages others to say what they think, now we have the free exchange of ideas. I have seen people who maybe intentionally are using this argument because we're an easy target on social media. We've become a target, and they'll say, "Oh, they're using it. They're just shutting down stuff and they're criticizing people." Well, they haven't seen our website for a long time. They haven't looked at our work because we made that shift early on from scoring political speech to looking at ourselves. And it's really moved to that realm for us now. It's that we are trying to help people see their own language so that they can be part of the solution and not part of the contempt problem.
Thank you. So it sounds like we're not just targeting certain political speech with the dignity index. Um, are there any like cultural problems that you see in our nation that have led to just generalized incivility and lack of dignity?
Yeah, there's, the social media issue is just huge and we've become anonymous, right? You can get online and even if you're not anonymous online, there's like this barrier. There's not real people in the room. You're not face to face with people and it's easier to say snarky things or be insulting or demeaning through that little device. And so I think social media plays a big part in the increase in contempt. Talk radio, cable news. I mean, you've seen a rise of contempt as really a strategy to gain viewers, to gain clicks and likes and followers. And it's been a winning strategy for them. A lot of people, a lot of companies are making a lot of money off of getting us to hate each other. And so we have a big task ahead of us as we want contempt to backfire and we want dignity to make people successful. I love some of these channels that I follow. There's the Good Morning America. Is it the Good Morning or the CBS show where Steve Hartman follows the good news? And there's lots of accounts online that show and talk about people doing good things and kind things for each other. And we want those types of accounts that make people feel more love for each other. We want those to gain clicks and likes and followers.
Wonderful. Knowing that there's this big money machine that I guess uses the worst of our human nature to make great profits. Do you ever feel like I don't know uh, that the path forward is just too difficult? What keeps you motivated and not giving up?
Yeah, I feel like the path forward is difficult, and I would say very difficult. I don't think it's too difficult when you have enough people who are on that pathway with you. Let me give you an example. Early on, when we first went public with the results of our pilot test, so our pilot was in the fall of 2022, and early in 2023, there was a political article about our work, and I started to see messages coming in on our social media, and one has just stuck with me ever since. They said it was a woman who said, I recently received an email fundraising plea from an organization that whose work I support. But she said, I wrote them back and said, I support your work, but I don't like the way you demonize politicians. And therefore, I will not be donating to your cause until you change your tactics. And then she even added something like, you should check out the Dignity Index. And that's one small example, but
Hmm.
we're hearing this over and over again as we travel, as we present, having people just make a commitment and saying, I'm gonna email my congressman. This happened just the other day too. I presented in Las Vegas, and a week later, I got an email from someone that said that this woman who was at the presentation went and met with her congressional candidate, and she took her Dignity Index card and said, "Hey, I heard about this index last week. I want you to commit to staying a five or above. Otherwise, I can't donate to your campaign and I can't vote for you." Imagine what would happen if dozens and then hundreds and thousands of Americans had that conversation with their candidate. Or, in a business setting, if you have conflict, things that are really important happening and you can't seem to solve that conflict together, think of what it would be like if you guys started a dignity club and said, look, I'm struggling here. This is hard for me. Let's get together and let's help each other stay on the dignity side of the scale. Um, I just think that together with locking arms with good-hearted people all across the country, it's not too difficult. It's difficult, but I think we can do it.
So I have two adult children, and I sat down with them one evening recently, and we went over the Dignity Index together. And one of the problems I ran into was this feeling that, well, the concern they had was if some politician or somebody who's on the other side is using language that is rather undignified or, you know, tough, you know, strong language, that it's weakness not to
Yeah.
respond in kind.
Yeah.
How would you respond to that
Yeah.
concern?
Well, two things. First of all, we believe that you can have strong, robust disagreement and, really involved arguments, but you can do that without demonizing the other side. So we believe it's possible to disagree strongly and ardently, but still do it with dignity. The other thing I would say is that contempt contempt wins enemies for your cause. So I can speak to you with contempt, and you can speak back to me with contempt. Neither one of us is gaining any support for our cause. We have just the same people that supported us now, the same people that hate us. If you want to actually win influence and gain people over to your cause and help them understand what you're about and what you want to see happen, then treating them with contempt or treating the person that they voted for with contempt doesn't work. It contempt has not, it doesn't work. It's not solving our problems. A lot of times I like to say, if you think responding with contempt works, how is that working for us? How's that working for the country right now? Because that's our strategy is responding in kind. I think the last thing I'll say about this, and this is something that I've talked about with other elected officials, women elected officials. I served in elected office for 12 years, and people will say, but you have to fight fire with fire. You just have to fight fire with fire. Guess what? I oversaw the fire department. Guess what the fire department did not use to fight fire? You don't go in and pour gasoline on flames and think that it's going to get better. You use calming agents. There are times, rare times, when you're out maybe in a brush fire or a forest fire where you have to draw a line. You draw a fire line in a very specific way so that you can stop fire from spreading. But by and large, I'm going to say 98% of the time, you don't calm the situation by fighting fire with fire. It just doesn't work. It makes you feel better to be snarky and
Yeah.
contemptuous back doesn't solve any problems.
And I would say sometimes there's just no such thing as a perfect analogy. In fact, usually that's the case.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so I want to share my screen here real quick and talk to you about the this survey that was recently done by the Dignity Index. Give me a moment. All right. Can you see
Yes.
the screen? Okay, it's up. Excellent. All right. So the first question I have about this, and I like to see data. I'm kind of a data person.
Nice.
Um, and here we go. All right. So a couple of things stuck out to me in this survey, and the first one uh, is is there the disparity between how we assess our own behavior and how we assess others' behaviors. And how often do you treat people that you
Yeah.
disagree with dignity rather than contempt? So most people think 77% of the time they're doing a
Yep.
pretty good job, right? Most of the time or always.
Yep.
But when they look at, we ask them about how people, other people treat them, whether it's with dignity um, rather than contempt, you get 47%. So that's quite a gap.
Yeah.
What do you think explains this gap?
Well, we call this the blind spot. And it's
Hmm.
again part of that mirror effect. I treat you really, really well. It's other people who are not treating me well. Like my dignity is intact. I'm a really good person. We don't stop to hear our own language sometimes. And I think once you go through the process of having this mirror effect, you realize that maybe you're not at 77%. Maybe it's that you could do a better job as well. And then, of course, we're always a little more sensitive to how people treat us and what that comes across to us as. I think part of that can be things that we say that we don't intentionally at all mean it to be taken wrong or taken negatively, but it is. And then maybe we don't give people the benefit of the doubt, and so when they treat us in a way that offends us, then it drops a little bit lower. But overall, we look at this as a blind spot, and again, kind of having to do with the mirror effect.
Right. This reminds me of Jesus is saying about the person with a beam in their eye trying to
Yeah,
extract a mote in someone else's.
yeah.
I don't know if this is exactly the
No,
same
I think that's
situation,
yeah, very much so.
but yeah, yeah, I think they're related. Um, so the next one, I think this is number 4. All right. So here I noticed something interesting about how Most Americans are dissatisfied with how we treat each other and say the problem's getting worse. But the perception of how bad it is varies by political party. So
Yeah,
Democrats and independents have very low satisfaction, 16 and 17%, whereas Republicans are 32%. So, uh, clearly most people think that this is, civility or lack of civility, lack of dignity is a problem, but it's less so for Republicans. I don't know if you thought,
yeah.
if your team has come up with any reasons why that might be.
Yeah, we've looked at that, and we've got, a couple of members of our team who have spent a lifetime in politics. They said it's very, very common for attitudes to be more positive if your party is in the White House. And when you're not in control, your attitudes, your optimism is generally a little bit lower. And they said that you can look at this over time, and this is a very typical finding that when your party's in power, you're in the White House, you're generally more optimistic.
All right, that's the answer I thought you would give,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, and you can, I think if you look at other surveys that are coming out, like on the economy,
hmm
on a lot of things, you'll see that same breakdown.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if if a Democrat is in office, say in a future uh, presidential term, if that changes. But
Yeah, yeah.
definitely interesting. Um, I will stop sharing. Let's see, here we go. And all right, so a question about group meetings. How would you, before you even meet with somebody, what are some things that you find helpful to uh, encourage a feeling of belonging and trust
Yeah.
before you even start to talk about difficult issues?
Yeah. One thing that I've looked at is, and then we've talked a lot about, is trying to develop relationships ahead of time. And those relationships don't need to be, we're going to agree on everything and we're going to be so nice to each other and we're not going to talk about difficult things because then it might get uncomfortable. But just being upfront, saying, I want to treat you with dignity. I care about you as an individual. I really disagree. We're going to have a meeting this afternoon. I'm just going to tell you right now, I disagree with your opinion on this, but I want to learn more. I want to find out what led you to that view. I want to find out why we think so differently. And sometimes that just being that open and upfront says to them, okay, this is going to be difficult, but they want to talk about it. When we talk about the scale, there's two levels of the scale that I think come to play in here. A level six is when you're looking for common ground. You're looking for those interests and values you share, and you're going to build on those. A seven is when you're looking at those things you don't agree on. I want to find out why we disagree because we keep coming up against this problem over and over. So I'm just going to listen this time. I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to listen to what you have to say and I'm going to ask you questions to learn more about what you have to say. What a lot of people report to us is that the deeper they listen, the more and the better they understand what the difference is all about, the better they are as a pair or a partnership to come up with solutions they've never thought of before. So a six, I think of as common ground. A seven, I think of as finding higher ground because we're not going to do the same battle, the same one of us has to win and one of us has to lose and one of us has to compromise and one of us has to do this. It's like, let's just put everything aside. Let's think of something we've never thought of before because now I understand you a little bit better.
Awesome. So another question I have is about the scale itself. I was thinking at first, well, wouldn't it be nice if I could always just talk in eight? But I'm like, how? I don't think that's even
Yeah,
possible,
yeah,
honestly, because
yeah,
what is
yeah.
the goal
Listen,
as far as being on that scale?
that's a really great question. We talk about this too. I'll do a workshop and we'll get through some of the scoring activities that we have, and someone will say, "I'm going to be an eight every day." There are not always opportunities for you to be an eight, and so we score our language in moments of conflict or disagreement. And an eight is when typically we see a really high it's a high risk situation for someone. There's this really great video that we like to show. It's a Ted Lasso video where he's at a press conference, he's getting attacked, the stakes are high, someone's coming at him with contempt, and he responds with dignity. So that's a situation that the opportunity was there to score anywhere on that scale. And when you choose to respond to contempt with high levels of dignity, now you're in the 8 territory. But those opportunities don't present themselves every day. You can get up and be nice and everything, and please keep doing that. But when people say I'm going to be an 8 every day, we try to lower their expectations and say, look, 5 or above is great, especially, when there's people you really don't get along with. And there's situations that instead of avoiding them, which is can dip down into a 4, stick at a 5 and just say, I'm going to listen to what you have to say. And hopefully you'll listen to me, but I'm going to at least stay at a 5. And that's good territory. A 5 is a great place to be. A 6 is great. 7 is fantastic. If you have the opportunity in a high stakes situation where someone's come at you with contempt, and you have a chance, like a decision point right then, to respond with dignity in the face of that, now you're in 8 territory. But again, those opportunities don't always present themselves every day.
Right. So uh, I guess what I'm hearing is that, if you're just getting started, you're practicing this index, it's good to, focus on 5 and up.
Yep.
And maybe if you're able to reach level 5 pretty consistently, you should feel pretty
Yeah,
good about yourself.
absolutely, 100%. And in a work, we do work trainings now. We work
Hmm.
with a couple of large corporations, and it's like manager training. And there are times, but there might be a person that you are really, really lucky because of personality conflicts or whatever, that you're lucky to be at a 5 and a 6. And that's dignity territory. We like people to learn the language of a 7 and an 8 so that when you are faced with those particular circumstances, you remember what that language looks like. You remember what that might be. At the 7, I love 7 on the scale just because there's so many cool things at it. And at a 7 on the scale, one of the things I like about it is that when you see through the polarization game, when someone is trying to trap you, they try to incite anger and then they're just waiting to light you up and to see what happens. And when you resist that, that's a 7. And so there's cool things. This I'm reading from our scoring guide. We have a scoring guide that's on our website, and it gives you even more details about the language. And we practice this in some of our workshops. We'll give a scenario, and this is a work scenario or a scenario with a city council person. This is what's happening. How would you respond? And we have people practice. Well, if at a 5, I would say this. If I tried to be a 7, maybe I could do this. And again, learning this language helps us uh, to to have opportunities and have something ready to say when we're hit with contempt or when all of a sudden I get really angry at someone. It's like, okay, calm down, Tammy. What's a 5? What would a 5 say right now?
Nice. Um, so let's see if let's say somebody's just getting started. If I have a listener that's gotten this far, what's your recommendation to them how to get started with the Dignity Index?
Yeah. I would love to have them visit our website. It's dignity.us or dignity.us, as in us together. We have videos, short videos on the website. We've got some longer keynotes. Tim Shriver, my colleague, just gave the commencement or gave a speech at Notre Dame. He won the Latari Medal and gave a beautiful speech. And you start to hear some of our strategy that comes through our commencement addresses, our speeches. We've got clips from other speaking engagements, and you start to sort of hear what that looks like. And we have tips that we give, and we have things that you can read. We have a newsletter that goes out every week. You can see that on our website too, or you can sign up and get the newsletter in the mail. And we talk about like specific things in the newsletter. We talk about what we're doing in the movement across the country, but also your question about responding to contempt with contempt. That comes up a lot. And so my other colleague Tom writes about that. Does contempt suppress free speech or does dignity, open up? So some of it is some real practical guidelines for people that want to join the dignity movement, that want to become better at this. Again, the website is dignity.us. And those newsletters, you can go to the section that's called, I think it's called News or Latest, the latest, and click on the newsletter. And it's some weekly inspiration and education. And we'd love to have people join the movement.
Yeah, one thing I like about the dignity.us or .us website is the daily
The Dignity Daily.
Dignity
Yay.
Daily. Yes. So I found that I consistently am off by one.
Wait, are you off higher or lower? That's what I want
It
to.
varies. It really does. I try my best, but I'm still trying to figure it out.
If it
So
makes you
it
feel any better, I don't get 100% on it either. I'm pretty good, but there are days where it's like, wait, and I really have to think about it. So,
yeah. But anyway, I still enjoy it. I figure if I'm one off, that's good enough. I still feel
yep,
pretty good about it.
yep.
And I will put links in I guess in the I guess in the video description. I'll
Okay.
make sure there's links there for people to go and visit. And I wanted to add one thing. So my calling at church is elders quorum instructor, and as you may know, we go over conference talks in our classes, both in elders quorum and Relief Society. And I had the opportunity to teach on Elder Stevenson's talk on
Hmm.
peacemaking from last general
Yeah.
conference, which honestly I'm a peacemaking champion. I just love that the church is really uh, taking up this cause. But I had also seen Elder Stevenson's I think it was a BYU talk where
His
he
BYU
introduced
address. I know.
yeah, where he
I watched
introduced the
that and cried just a
yeah.
little bit.
So I think that's how I first found the Dignity Index as I was watching that. I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I went and checked it out.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, even though that talk wasn't that he did at BYU was not the general conference talk, there was so much overlap. And
Yeah.
I figured since, general conference is often for like a worldwide audience, given we're in the United States, the Dignity Index is English.
Yeah.
Um, I used it in my class.
Oh, nice.
And it went really well. Even put up some of the Dignity Daily examples, and we talked about those as a group to see kind of how we might rank them.
Hmm.
Uh, anyway, just this was many months ago that I did that, and I had men's wives coming up to me afterwards and saying, "I just love how you do lessons," and her husband talked to her about the Dignity Index, and I had a member of the High Council come up to me after he gave a talk last Sunday, and he's like, "Hey, thank you for introducing me to the Dignity Index.
No way.
I'm following it on social media, and he's really enjoying it and learning from it." So, even if the headwinds seem strong, I know you're making a difference. Not with just me, but lots of other people.
Nice.
So I would encourage like anyone out there, if you can find a way to share this Dignity Index with someone else, please do it. It's doing a lot of good in the world. Um, do you have any final thoughts before I let you go?
No, I appreciate that. And let me just, you've sparked a couple of ideas. We have a growing interest from faith communities, not
Hmm.
just our community, although it tickles me that Elder Stevenson talked about us at BYU, and President Nelson's talk in April of 2023 about being peacemakers was also so closely, our work was so closely related to that. But there's a growing desire from Presbyterians, from the Catholic Church, and we get these inquiries now all of the time, growing. And so we're developing some resources for faith organizations. And I've spoken to several LDS congregations. So I'm trying to get a little toolkit, a little packet that I can send to people if they want to talk about this, in a lesson or something like that, which is just really moving to me. And the last thing I'll add is I forgot to mention our YouTube channel. So go to our website, and if you'll put that link in there to the YouTube channel, it's our handle is the Dignity Movement. We're trying to, I'm being very optimistic about the movement, but we've got lots and lots of videos and cool things on our YouTube channel as well. But thank you for being part of the movement and for having me on and spreading the message. The alternative is just not the alternative to dignity and to peacemaking is just, it's not where I want to be. And so I'm going to do everything I can for the amount of time I have left to continue to pursue this and promote the message. So thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you very much for giving me a chance to interview you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me on Proving Contraries.